everybody. Are you looking for a fun, easy, engaging activity for your age 2, age 3, or age 4 child who is stuck at home with you? If so, I've got a great activity with easy prep, and all you need is your silverware drawer. So if you've got your silverware drawer, go ahead and follow along with me. This is a really fun activity that will keep your child engaged for hours and hours of play, but also this play is really gauged towards building their development and getting their brains cognitively prepared. So I'm the author of this great book. I co-authored it with my grandmother. It's called Slow and Steady, Get Me Ready for Kindergarten. It's available on Amazon, Barnes & Noble. I think even Walmart has it. And so it was published by Zulon Press back in 2017. And I'm really excited because I'm sharing a lot of the activities from this book in little video series for you to enjoy with your students, your children, because all you need for these activities is stuff you've got right now in your home. You do not have to buy anything. You can actually use what you have in your home to occupy your child and build their learning. So the activity that I'm going to start with is the age 2, activity 20, and then I'll move on to age 3, activity 12, and activity 21, and then I'll round it off with the age 4 activity, which is activity 28 in the book. So you'll need your silverware drawer, and the first activity with your child is sorting. Sorting is such an important activity for children, especially in age 2 and 3. And so you can start with taking all of the silverware out into one big pile and maybe putting all of the forks together, or spoons and forks. And start easy with your child and have them sort all of the spoons into one section and all of the forks into another section. Mix them up in a pile. Have your child do it over and over again, and then when they're ready, you can add on. You can add on a third set, larger spoons. You could add another set, which is larger forks. And you can talk about big and little and how these shapes are similar in size. You can also talk about if they fit in the utensil organizer that you have in your silverware drawer. You'll also want to talk about safety with your children, especially if they're younger, because of the prongs on the fork. And I don't recommend that you add in knives at this time until you feel like your child could responsibly handle them safely. And so this sorting activity is one that you can build to. It also gives your student or your child a sense of organization. We want to teach our children that things go in a special place, and that there's a desire to actually have things in their special place where they belong. Another activity that you can do with the age 2 children is counting them. How many forks are in this slot? How many spoons are in this slot? Then you can get a little trickier. You can say how many spoons altogether, big and little, and they can count those up. How many forks, big and little? This is a great activity for counting and sorting, which are two very important skills that are needed for youngsters as they're in their brain development. All right, so age 3, activities 12 and 21 also have to do with silverware. And so this is where you can actually talk about chores in your family and house tasks, where the child can really see themselves as part of the family unit. And this is where we might want to invite our children to help with emptying the dishwasher and sorting the silverware, now that he or she has played with this sorting activity. And there's a sense of responsibility, there's a sense of ownership when a child has a house chore and can see themselves as part of helping the family unit as a whole. So this is one that's easy to incorporate. It's also part of the where does it belong activity that you can find in Slow and Steady, Get Me Ready. And This is a fun activity. It does take a little bit of prep work, but you can invite your child to do it. I didn't do an amazing job, but I'm just using a blank manila folder, which most of you have in your office drawers, and a Sharpie. And all I did is I traced the large spoon and the small spoon on this manila folder to create kind of a puzzle. And you can actually have your child help you in tracing these so that they feel like they're involved and they also created part of this. You can do that also for the forks, and if your child is responsible enough with your butter knives as well. But then this is a puzzle. You would put this down on a table, and you would give your students basically just a pile of these. If you were working with a young child, maybe age 2 or 3, I would only have the correct shape available for them to choose from, and then they would just need to match up the actual item to its shadow, to its tracing, to its outline. You can notice that I have a big spoon and a little spoon. This would be once your student has cognitively been successful with the first one, then they can go ahead and you can mix up little and big spoons and have them find out which one goes in the puzzle. You can do this for other shapes and other utensils as well if you wanted to get creative and go ahead and get a spatula out, or maybe a cake cutter. I was thinking of one of those pie servers. And but you don't have to. It's just an idea, thinking of where does it belong and using those shapes. So that is part of patterning, and that's where we're going to go ahead and build to. So if your child is a little bit older or ready for this activity, I suggest in age 4, activity 28, talking a little bit about patterns and how you can use silverware as easy objects to build patterns and teach your children patterns. I recommend you do this on the floor. That way that they have lots and lots of space and they can actually feel really confident in doing this. But I would teach your child a pattern, and I would start with just spoon, 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 right? And then after they know that is a pattern, maybe 4 spoons in a row, you can keep building on that. Then I would just take 2 objects and I would just pattern them spoon, fork, spoon, fork, spoon, fork. And then once you show them, have them give it a try by themselves with you there. You can also have them work independently of you and let them know what you'd like them to build for you, and then they can come back and show it to you after they've finished working. And you can always praise your child for their effort first. If they have not completed the pattern the way you had suggested it to them, make sure that the language that you're using is inspiring, it's encouraging, and it's motivating, while at the same time teaching or maybe pointing out how they could have done it more successfully or differently. I've noticed that a lot of students will children will shut down if we immediately look at what they've done and point to the error first. So always work through giving your child that praise and making sure it's balanced with your criticism as well as we're teaching our children. Obviously, patterns can be as long as possible or as long as you want them to, however much silverware you want to use. You can also add a third element, like a small fork or a small spoon. You can also add a 4th or 5th element, and so then you would be patterning all of those. You can also show your child how to build patterns, build on patterns. So for instance, you could have 1 spoon and then 1 small spoon and another small spoon. And then you go back to a big spoon and then 2 small spoons. But instead of 2 this time, you add a 3rd. And so then it would be big spoon, small spoon, big spoon. Then small spoon, small spoon, small spoon, and then big spoon. So you can add on as well to what your child might need. And a lot of patterns are suggested in the book on those pages as part of repeating patterns and building on patterns. So I hope that this activity might bless you and your little ones right now during this time. I will be back next week with another great activity. And if you haven't seen my pretend store activity that I did last week, go ahead and check that out. I've posted it on my timeline. It's also on my YouTube channel, which is just my name, Hannah Connect. And I would love to see you over there. Share this video with anyone you think would need it who has little ones, ages 0 to 5 years old, so that they can be using their time right now as productively as possible and enjoying this time at home. Bye, everybody.